Good evening and welcome to Spotlight. My name is Nwong Falong and it's an honor always to have you tuned in to us for this 1 hour of your evening. Now, this particular episode, we're discussing gender in political appointments. And I'll just give you a bit of a brief on why we are discussing this. Now, Article 17.4 of the 1992 Constitution states that discrimination on the basis of gender is prohibited, with an exception in 17.4a, which states that nothing in this article shall prevent Parliament from enacting laws that are reasonably necessary to provide for the implementation of policies and programs aimed at redressing social and economic or educational imbalance in the Ghanaian society. Research has also shown that there is gender imbalance in several spheres of Ghanaian life, and these provisions allow for affirmative action to be taken to right the wrongs of gender-based discrimination. Now, women constitute more than 52% of Ghana's population. The ratio of female and male membership of both parliament, district assemblies, public and private sectors, and in corporate organizations do not reflect the composition of Ghana's population. Clearly, there's an increasing need for us to address the marginalization of women in public and economic life in Ghana through specific and targeted action. It's the only way it can happen. It's not going to happen by accident or by chance. Now, women ministers have been confirmed, and some deputy women ministers nominees are awaiting parliamentary approval. These are the numbers where that is concerned in the list released yesterday by the President's office to the Speaker of Parliament. Now, sector ministers, so far we have 5 women out of 30, which represents 16.67%. Among the 5 women, 1 is a Minister of State. Now, we also have regional ministers, 2 women out of 16, representing 12.5%. There won't be any deputy regional ministers, so we do not expect that there will be any women appointed to deputy ministerial, regional ministerial positions. Also, there are 85 ministers in total, made up of 68 women and 17 women. This represents men 80% and women 20%. Deputy sector ministers who were nominated yesterday, 10 women out of 39, representing 25.64%. These statistics are quite discouraging to look at. So we're looking at the critical angle of gender. What do the appointments reflect in terms of government's commitment to gender balance and inclusive governance? Before I proceed into the conversation, I'm just going to quickly take you through some development protocols that government has signed on to, which require equalization of the playing field. Now, there's the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, which is CEDAW, of the 1979. This calls for equality. There's also the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action of 1995, also calls for equality. In the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs of 2015, which Ghana has again signed on to, again, there's a call in Goal 5 for gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls, with special focus on gender equality. It calls for the achievement of parity by 2030. Is Ghana properly positioned to achieve these development goals that we have willingly signed on to? Are we even proceeding in a manner that shows that we are committed to achieving these development goals? These are the critical questions we are asking today on Spotlight. Now, we're going to be joined for this discussion by some knowledgeable resource persons. But before that, Spotlight will continue in a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight. Thank you for staying with us. As mentioned before that break, today we are discussing gender in political appointments with specific reference to the deputy ministerial list that was released. We are also looking at ministers of state. We are joined for this discussion by communications consultant and gender advocate, Madam Shamima Muslim. We are also joined by the ranking member for Parliament's Gender and Children's Committee, that's Madam Helen Ajua Ntoso, as well as the chair, Francisca Oting Mensah. We are also joined by Betty Crosby Mensah. She's the Afram Plains North Member of Parliament and Vice President of the Young Parliamentarians Forum. That's Honorable Betty Crosby Mensah. Women, thank you so much for joining us. Shamima, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can. Good afternoon to you as well, and thanks for having all of us.
Thank you for joining us. So I am just going to quickly go over the nominations we have here and the numbers, the percentages that we have been able to see from those figures. And then I am going to take your opinion on that and some answers to some critical questions. Now, for sector ministers, we have 5 women out of 30. That's 16.67% women. Among these 5 women, one of them is a minister of state. Now, regional ministers, there's 2 women out of 16. 2 women out of 16 regional ministers, representing 12.5%. Deputy sector ministers that were recently nominated, 10 women out of 39. 10 women out of 39 people, representing 25.64% of the nomination list. Now, there's also 85 ministers in total, made up of 68 men and 17 women. That's 20% women and 80%, a whooping 80% men. Now, we know that there's been a drop in government size, which essentially is a drop in cost of operations. But what about gender? When we look at these figures, does it reflect a commitment to gender balance and ensuring equality and inclusiveness in governance?
Thank you very much, Noah, once again. Obviously not. I mean, 80 to 20% disparity is not a figure that we must be proud about. I think that it's woefully inadequate. And I think for every woman across the country, all they need to do is to try and quantify what they have observed to be the efforts, the contributions, the sacrifices of all the women of Ghana. If we were to quantify that as represented by these select number of individuals to lead the affairs of the country into the next 4 years, we are being told that all of your efforts, all of your numbers, all of your contributions, and all of your sacrifices amount to 20%. So that is what you are entitled to. That is what you have earned as a majority population, as the backbone of our informal economy, as the bearers of our children and of our future, as the nurturers of our society, as the basic unit of our family, which also becomes the basic unit of our society. We are being told now that when it comes to sharing the cake, all of that is 20%. So if we are happy with 20%, then we should all go home and sleep and worry no more or complain no more. But I think that for advocates, for activists, for even the Cursory Watcher, we can't but come to the conclusion that this is woefully inadequate, and at the going rate, it doesn't seem as if there is enough commitment from the various actors. First of all, governments, because they have the power under the leadership of the president, who has the appointive power and who actually holds the spirit of the Constitution. And if he were to really live by the spirit of the Constitution, which, abhors discrimination on the basis of sex, whether it is deliberate or it is institutional. Obviously, there's a problem institutionally that continues to, hold women back. So we have to go back to the president and ask whether he feels these numbers reflect the spirit and the ethos of the Constitution, first of all, whether it reflects positively on his own title as an AU gender champion, and what might be the problem that we continue to see these abysmal numbers of women. And just to wrap up on my preliminary contribution, Long, if we even take a look at the gender committee in Parliament, I think it tells us, I'm smiling because, it's very exhausting. It's not a matter to smile about, but when you've been on these on this journey for so long, and you come to this realization that the more you put in, the less you get from it. It becomes exhaustion and very exhausting, and you don't really know what else to say. So I guess if you looked at the gender committee, it's also almost 80%, 20%. And the argument that the constitutional injunction of appointing two-thirds ministers from Parliament is always been a challenge. But we have also seen that under President Akufo-Addo, there's been quite a number of appointments from outside of Parliament, and we wondered, where are the women?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shamima Muslim. She's a communications consultant. She's also a gender advocate. Please stay with us. We're going to come back to you shortly. Let me just pull in the Member of Parliament, ranking member for Parliament's Gender and Children Committee, Madam Helen Adjuantosu, who has just joined us. Hello, Madam. Welcome to Spotlight. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Now, some of the substantive questions we are asking this evening include, why are we seeing such low numbers in ministerial appointments and deputy ministerial appointments where women are concerned? We established before you joined that only 20% are women and a whooping 80% men. Why these numbers?
Thank you very much, Non, for calling me to contribute to what you're discussing at the moment. It's rather unfortunate. When I heard about the recent appointments, I was a bit disappointed because, when the substantive ministers were mentioned, some of us we were not happy. I'm a gender advocate, and when it comes to gender equity, I think that we are not treated fairly in this country at all, because the seventh parliament, that between 2017 and 2020, people were saying that Nana Addo is a gender advocate, whatever. So if the previous is, from 2017 to 2020, the number of female or women appointees that was in his government was about 26.25%. 21 female appointees, Then now you come to the 8th Parliament, you come to the appointment of ministers. Now we have increased even our numbers. It was 37. I know some female ministers lost their position. Now we are 40 in number. So for the majority side, they are 20 in number. 20 in number. And then we have women out there who qualify to hold ministerial appointments. I am not talking about only those in Parliament. I'm saying that there are women out there who are not MPs, but who are equally, qualified to hold ministerial appointments. So if you come out with your substantive appointments, ministerial appointments, and you appoint only 6 women, And then you come to deputy ministerial appointment, and then you give women this small quota of
10 women.
10 women, of 10 women. So in all, and then we have 2 out of 16 regional ministers, we have only two
Yes.
regional ministers who are female. So now we have 17. Out of all the appointments that the president has made, this time round, we're moving forward as a country. My sister, Ghana has signed on the Sustainable Development Goal 5. We have signed on all the 17 goals that we have. And the Goal 5 is on gender equity. So if it's on gender equity, why is the president doing what he's doing? Is he telling the women of this country that they are not qualified to hold ministerial appointments? And what I'm so saddened about in this country is when even when appointments are made, when it comes to the security services, they don't even appoint women. They don't appoint women. For instance, you go to defense, Minister of Defense, they don't appoint women. Not even deputy ministerial appointment for a woman for defense. When it comes to interior, nothing. National security, nothing. But I can assure you as somebody who has also done security, that when it comes to security work, women are more tight when it comes to volume of information and all that. But these appointments, they don't consider women, to hold appointments when it comes to security agencies. Do you understand? So we're moving forward as a country. But when it comes to appointments of women, we're moving backwards. So if Nanadu says that he's a gender equity advocate, is that lip service? It's just a lip service. He's not walking the talk. Because the previous, what happened between 2017 and 2020, he kept saying that he, as for his government, he's going for 30%, 40%. And then you have this in party's manifesto. We will appoint 30% women, 40% women, to be in leadership positions. But now, we have moved from 26.25% to 17%. What's that for? It's not fair to the women of this country. So the earlier they look at what they are stand on, to promote gender equity in this country, and they are not doing that, they should take notice that they've got to improve that aspect. Other than that, we're not going anywhere. And women will play a very pivotal role when it comes to the development of a nation. Without women, no nation can develop. Without women, no nation can develop. So they should see us as equal partners in the development of this nation. But they are not seeing us as equal partners. They are not seeing us as women who can hold, ministerial positions and to be able to perform. Look at the performance of women who held, appointments, ministerial appointments in this country, and look at the performance of the men. When I was the regional minister, I was adjudged the best regional minister in 2015. I was adjudged the best African female peace champion. You get me? So put women in the position and see whether they'll be able to perform or they will not be able to perform. But what they're doing is not effective.
Thank you so much, Madam Helen Adjoa-Ntosu. She's ranking member for Parliament's Gender and Children Committee. Honorable Helen Adjoa-Ntosu. Please do not hang up. Stay with us. We'll be coming back to you. We have so many questions. Is Ghana seeing women as equal partners in development? Is government living up to its reputation or claims of being gender champions? And we should also know that President Akufo-Addo is an AU gender champion. Is this reflecting in the appointments list, and what remedies available to women? We're asking many, many critical questions today. And I will just go over a few figures again to put this discussion in better perspective. If you just joined us, we're discussing gender in political appointments. The sector ministers in Ghana, there are 5 women out of 30 sector ministers. That's 5 women, 16.67% for women. Now, among these 5 women, one of them is a minister of state. There are also regional ministers, 2 women out of 16 regional ministers, representing 12.5%. Very abysmal figures. And we also know there won't be any deputy regional ministers appointed. In deputy sector ministers, which is the most recent appointments list, 10 women out of 39, representing 25.64%. In total, we have 85 ministers. Out of these 85, we have 68 men and 17 women. Disappointing 20% of women and 80% of men. You would think the population is made up of only men, but the figures show us that some 52% of the country's population are women. And in inclusive development and inclusive governance, you want to reflect the composition of your population. Ghana's appointments, political appointments, do not reflect the composition of the population, which means directly that there is no possibility of inclusive development. We still have on the line Madam Shamima Muslim, who is a communications consultant and a gender advocate. Now, Shamima, what remedies are available to women in the face of this pushback that we are experiencing?
Right. So, first of all, we don't have a choice than to continue to soldier on. So advocacy must continue, irrespective of the fact that we haven't seen the gains or the transformation that we so much sought and have fought for consistently over several decades now. So we must continue the advocacy, but we must, as a matter of necessity, pause to reflect, to review, and then to re-strategize, because obviously, as the popular adage goes, you can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. So on the advocacy front, it's obvious that we need to do some deeper introspection and review of the strategies that we have adopted over the years, which is giving us the results that we currently see. To begin speaking specifically on what else needs to be done to, first of all, increase the numbers, because obviously we need to increase the numbers of women in elective positions. My point is that affirmative action bill is vital, but as we have seen with legislation, enforcement is always a challenge, and we have been using moral suasion for a lot of things. RTI has been passed. We haven't seen a plethora of institutions or individuals, demanding information. Same as I predict will happen to even the affirmative action bill. Without specific targeted action and consistent action, we may not derive the gains from the affirmative action bill. So for me, one remedial action is specific action. Let us increase the numbers of women electing to stand for positions and winning. So we want to see into the next cycle of elections, many, many more women, almost equal, if not more, contesting for various elective positions within the party structure, but most importantly, at the constituency level, so that if we have more women, the chances of many more perhaps winning and going into parliament to increase the number in parliament would increase. So that's number one. Now, how do we do this? A lot of the women candidates will tell you about a lack of support, sometimes, most times financial. So there's a lack of resource support for the few women who venture, because fewer women control capital and financial resources. The few who have the wherewithal, you don't find them sponsoring candidates. So it is usually men who would support women with financial resources to contest, and often it comes with all kinds of strings attached. So we are saying that as advocacy groups, we need to begin to throw more money and resources directly at women who want to contest, who have the ability, the capacity, and the willingness to put themselves forward. We need to mobilize resources for them. We need to mobilize support for them. And most importantly, we have to give them the vote. Because if they don't get the vote, they don't come to parliament. So we can talk all we want. Bottom line is, women who contest elections must win elections in order for the numbers to increase. So when we have them on the tickets at the constituency level, and you are a woman and you go there and you refuse, you decide not to vote for whatever your reasons are, we can't now come back and complain, because who should vote for them anyway? So we are hoping that, first of all, we as women should put our money where our mouth is by electing more women to, positions or into parliament, number one. Number two, we have to also encourage our male allies, because some do exist. And if I will not be surprised if many more men vote for female candidates than women do. So we need to confront that conversation. It's a difficult conversation to have, but if we say we want to see the numbers increase, we have to vote for the numbers to increase. There's no other way out. The second part is with the nexus between the political power, the women groups or CSOs, and the citizens. So political power is, I think that political power is the greatest power to create change. So we're happy that President Akufo-Addo was saying the right things about gender. All the political parties have made promises about 30% appointment of women. None have really met it, unfortunately. President Akufo-Addo is AU gender champion. So we expected more, because to whom much is given, much is expected. In fact, when the first list came out, I was like, okay, it's not too bad. If you look, it is not impressive, but it's not too bad, because there's still more opportunity to appoint more women. And now here we are, 20% of all the collective efforts of Ghanaian women, 20% is what we are being told we deserve and we have been given. So to political parties and to political power, we have to continue the pressure, because yes, pressure works, mobilization works. We need to continue the pressure, and we need to do more than issuing statements. I think we need to go back to the ages or the days of mass protest, demonstrations, picketing, because it looks like the political parties or political leadership hears no other language than pressure. Social media as a point of pressure to virtually force the hands of leaders to do the right thing by all of the citizens of the land. It is just the right thing to do. If there is any reason why we are seeing these numbers, they should tell us. They should communicate to us what the challenges are and why they feel that of all the contributions that their own women have made to the party. And I'm happy Ntosu mentioned about some of the females who have been given positions, who have excelled, whom Nana Akufo-Addo himself has retained, as Lowusu, Sheliayo Koboche, Hawa Kunsin, as a vote of confidence in their ability, which means that had many more women gotten these opportunities, they would also prove their mettle. So what is it that continues to hold us back? Obviously, I am sure President Akufo-Addo would have revised his notes by now, that the women haven't shown enough dynamism. I'm sure he has since revised his note on that point that he made, that the women now need opportunity. They need to be pushed. They need into these positions. And when you have the power to appoint, that is the easiest thing to do. You need to give these women the opportunity by pushing them into these positions. So that's a second remedy. So the third one, conclusively, is to say then that of the other remaining opportunities, because the Constitution has given so much power to the president, so it is him who we must push the pressure on now, so that for the other remaining of the board chair positions, board members positions, CEO positions, that if President Akufo-Addo fails to redeem himself by giving us more of these qualified, willing, available, able women within his own party who have proven their commitment to the party over years, who have stood elections with very little resources, and maybe some of whom even failed, but who are available. If the president fails to redeem himself with the other remaining appointed positions, then he will leave us no option at all than to come to the definite conclusion that President Akufo-Addo was really no AU gender champion after all. No.
Thank you so much, Shamima. This is quite an in-depth contribution. Now, Honorable Ntoso, if you're still with us, we're seeing a lot of activism, a lot of dynamism from women. We have seen a lot of pressure, a lot of action from development organizations, from advocacy groups. Why are we still not up where we want to be? What is making the Ghanaian woman so invisible to political actors?
My sister, Ghanaian women are visible. They are. It's not every woman who is qualified to hold an appointment or a leadership position that will want to put herself, for to be elected.
Okay.
But they are qualified. They are qualified people who have not contested any election. But I can tell you that they are even more qualified than some of us who, come out, for elections.
But we've seen appointments even of men who are not in parliament. So it's not really a factor.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. That we have men who are not members of parliament, but they have been appointed. So president can equally appoint women who are not parliamentarians. That is my argument. And we still have women in parliament who are more than qualified to hold, leadership positions. But like my sister on the other side has said, and Nanado will have to redeem himself, with the new appointments that he's going to make. CEO positions, and then not just a board member position, but board chair positions. He has to consider that. And if we want to move forward as a country, then we also have to look at, our policies. Our policies that will help increase or promote gender equity. We've got to look at our policies. Yes, the affirmative action bill is yet to be, brought back to Parliament. I'm told that approval has been given by a cabinet. We are waiting for it to be brought back. So policies will have to. You see, when it gets to election time, then or election period, then you have political parties coming out to say, for filing fee, women should pay half of the money. That's that. So if you pay half of the filing fee, what about your campaign? What are the message for the money for your campaign? Because the campaign in this country is very expensive. You've got to go around everywhere, and people are demanding this and that. We all know what happened to the 2020 election. So the women do not have the resources. Meanwhile, they are qualified, to contest. So if you don't have the resources, how do you, put out yourself to contest an election? Women are not resourced. So there should be policies that will help women to be able to contest, to be able to have the resources, to be able to contest, because it's not easy, my sister, going through an election and winning in this country. It's not. And I think that the civil society time has come for them to have a roundtable conference with the president or with government to be able to speak on behalf of the women of this country. If government is not doing it, there should be a push. There should be a push. There should be people to be able to meet together to say, government, you are not doing well, on in promotion of women. I think that is what we have to do. Some of these issues, it takes, you've got to take the movement. It's on. The president will have to know that in this country we have signed on, and when it comes to gender equity, we've got to increase our numbers in leadership positions in this country. That is what we have to do. We all have to. The media, you also play a major role, when it comes to education and all that. You can also push government by, talking about it. Why these few numbers? Why these few numbers? The media can also play a role for the president to sit up when it comes to gender equity in this country.
Thank you, Madam Ntoso. And you, if you're listening, why the few numbers, Mr. President, of women in political positions? Now, let me just give you a quick recap of some of the development protocols that Ghana has signed on to, which mandates Ghana to make specific and targeted efforts at inclusive governance and parity, equality of the sexes. Now, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, CEDAW, of 1979, calls for equality. It calls on state parties to enact legislation to ensure that there's a realization of the provisions in the convention. Article 17 of the CEDAW Convention calls for ensuring that both men and women have equal access to election to the public bodies and allows for affirmative action to achieve this. Now, there's also the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action of 1995. This has been recognized as one of the 12 critical areas of concern. That's women in power and decision making. There's also the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, of 2015, which requires that we achieve gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls, especially focusing on gender equality. Now, there's also the African Charter on Humans and People's Rights that was signed in Banjul. Article 18 calls on all state parties to ensure the removal of discrimination against women. There's the option of a protocol called the Protocol to the African Charter on the Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa, Maputo Protocol of 2003, Article 19.1. The right to participation in political and decision-making process. It enjoins states to put in place specific and positive action to promote participative governance and equal participation of women in the political life of their countries through affirmative action again here. There's also the African Union Agenda 2063, which calls for parity to be achieved. Shamima, let me finish. Which calls for parity to be achieved by 2063 in its goal 5. The African Union Agenda of 2063. And again, I would like to remind you that President Akufo-Addo is the AU, African Union Gender Champion. There's also the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, adopted in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on the 30th of January 2007. It calls for gender parity or 50% in governance. Now, my question, Shamima, can we achieve parity by 2030 at this pace that we see Ghana?
What are you talking about? No. What parity from when? Are we 2030? Which 2030? Pray that within our lifetime we even get a semblance of inclusion. Because even globally, the UN institutions are telling us that if we take the global statistics, parity will not be attained over the next 100 years in income and in these other opportunities. It is those countries that work consistently and hard at it that will make any meaningful progress. And let me just add also, and I'll just probably make a contentious contribution, but it is what it is. I mean, it's obvious that we are all talk and no action. My school, Holy Child, our motto was facta non verba, action not words. So look at the list of conventions and things we have ratified as a country. So we are a country of talk and little action, really, where it comes to really doing that which will change the face of our state. We found ourselves wanting, because again, it's a cabal. It's an environment for the boys. So the boys will always share the loot. Let me use the loot amongst themselves more than they would include the female. So what do? We are not going to achieve parity if there's no consistent action by all the various stakeholders. The media is a critical stakeholder, and I think that what you're doing this afternoon is very critical, very well researched, informed, data-driven conversation, where you have shown us the statistics, the figures. This is not we putting it in anybody's mouth. This is our country making these global commitments to the issue of gender parity and inclusion in our society. And this is the political actors themselves failing on their words and on their politics. Unfortunately, there is no way of legally holding politicians to account. And I saw one thread on your line more recently when the CDD board shared some, news about attempts in other jurisdictions to actually hold politicians legally liable for failed promises, taking them to court and suing them for breaking the promises they made, to citizens when they were seeking power from them. So yes, we need more work to ensure that parity is attained. One of my suggestions is that as advocacy groups or civil society and development partners, we need to relook at where we are pushing our very small resources. I'm saying that let's go to the tertiaries. Let us even start from the primaries and encourage teachers to, build confidence of females and push them to leadership positions. Let us stop this practice at the primary level, where a head, the school prefect is a position left for the boys, and a girl can only be a deputy. It happens in our primary schools and in our secondary schools, where it's almost like a standard that head boy is boy and deputy is girl. Let us let the women compete equally and fairly, and encourage them in the classrooms into these leadership positions. And now to the tertiary, I think that is the fertile ground for supporting, because many of these young men who moved into national politics started from the tertiary level. And I'm saying that we need to connect at the 10 levels. The political party have these groups on campus, as well as the SRCs, where we are deliberately encouraging and supporting young girls who want to contest for SRC elections, NUCS elections. We shouldn't leave it for only the political parties to go and influence the outcome of these elections. I think development partners and CSOs who are on this empowerment agenda must begin to commit a certain percentage of their resources to support young women leaders at our tertiary levels to go into positions of leadership. They would build a skill, they will build the confidence, they will build the network, which we would hopefully support when they now move into national politics, if they choose to, or if we encourage them to do, and we show that we are supportive of those ambitions. Now we have 80-20. I think that this is a good tag for a campaign. So today we have 80% of men in ministerial positions and 20%. Into the next 4 years, let us say that whatever resources we get as development CSOs, we are going to commit 80% to supporting women who would step up and be willing to enter the political contest. We are going to start supporting them now to build their capacity, to build their skills, and support them with the money they will require to work the constituencies and build the constituencies to hopefully win the next elections. The district assembly elections is coming up also, I think either this year or next year. That is also an opportune moment for us to really put our money where our mouth is. So into the next couple of years, this is what I say to all development partners and CSOs. Please let us divert all the monies for the workshops on importance of political party participation of women, seminars, all of those things, all the workshops, all the conferences that are diagnosing the problem when we know what the problem is, and take this money to help the women who are on the field, who need these resources to build up these constituencies, to build up their skills so that we can increase the numbers. Because if the women are not there, the excuse that they are not there to be appointed will always be there. Let's get them there. As many as are willing and able to, let us push them there. In the meantime, we are advocating on the affirmative action that it be passed. And for those women who really have the capacity, but are not willing to go through this very tortuous route of elective politics, very vindictive route of vindictive politics, but who may be willing to offer their expertise at another level, that these women be considered, be encouraged, and be appointed. And I think this is by way of my concluding remarks and on this conversation. 80-20, let us into the next year commit 80% of all resources on women empowerment and capacity building into direct support for those identified to have the potential to go in there and to win those elections for us.
Thank you, Shamima Muslim. Quite a mouthful. Committing 80% of our resources into supporting women. Madam Ntosu, now we see that there's such a thing as donor fatigue and advocacy fatigue. When we look at the support that Ghana has received over the last years, 20 years, more than that, in other countries like South Africa, Rwanda, Guinea, they have used less years to achieve great results in women's participation in politics and in political appointments especially. In Ghana, we have spent so much time, so much money. Donor agencies are tired. They complain about putting so much money in and receiving very little results. Some of them have even pulled out of supporting the affirmative action efforts for the passage of the bill. Where will the money keep coming from if we are taking so long to get to the right destination? Honorable Ntosu, if you're with us.
Yes, I'm with you, but the line is safe now because I've just crossed the lake.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so I didn't hear what you said.
I will repeat. I was saying, Shamima Muslim was saying that we should commit 80% of funding to supporting women in politics. Now, what I'm saying is there's such a thing as donor fatigue. There's also advocacy fatigue. And if you look at the dynamics in Ghana, we have committed many years and so much funding into receiving very little results where inclusive governance and the participation of women is concerned. In other countries like Rwanda, like South Africa, like Guinea, they have used shorter amounts of time and less resources to achieve parity, especially in governance. Where will the money keep coming from if Ghana is producing such abysmal results?
Yeah, we can look one, and then we can also,
Okay, the line is not very good.
Of gender.
Honorable Ntosu, we're just going to try to reconnect because we can't hear you. It seems the line is pretty bad.
We know that even though
Okay, unfortunately, the line is not helping us much right now. My producers will keep trying to reconnect with Honorable Ntosu so we can get her submissions there. But Shamima, are you still with us? Shamima Muslim, are you still with us?
Yeah, let me just take my seat again.
Thank you. Thank you for staying. Now, let's look at the Affirmative Action Bill, which has been in the making for years. What is delaying the bill? And what other efforts do we need to push in to accelerate the passage of the Affirmative Action Bill?
Well, no, you're a member of the coalition, and I'm sure you're well aware of the kinds of hurdles that original bill, which was quite specific, has now gone through. It's gone through a lot of metamorphosis, and we have kind of like stretched it into so many other areas. And this is really what happens when you're trying to, deal with a specific problem. All of a sudden, there are all other interests that emerge that also insist that, to the extent that they also belong to minority, excluded, underrepresented group, then the Affirmative Action Bill has become like an umbrella bill to deal with all of these things. And you know that you can't be all things to all people. So we now have a watered down version, which is very expansive, which obviously will now give the politician an excuse, to go and touch here a little, touch here a little, touch there a little, and say, well, the law binds me to do all of these things. So you see, we have to do this here, do that here. So at the end of the day, I'm afraid we might not even get the required impact we thought that an affirmative action bill would do to increase the numbers of women through either appointive or elective, routes into governance at all levels. So it's not only MPs or CM or what have you, but at all levels to get many more women into national life. So we see young people, young girls growing up, see that a woman can be this, can be that, and will be inspired to work very hard to attain, this feat. So bottom line has always been with political commitment also reduced to fears of, on the side of the political class with respect to the what do you call it, the challenges that would arise and the commitments that will now be required from them, which often boils down to resources, because to really implement a law requires resources, not only financial, but institutional and infrastructure, because you need to put the requisite infrastructure in place. And that's where one of the areas that the RTI bill is faltering. The infrastructure has to be there for the law to be operationalized, and it all requires resources. And a politician would have very other interesting ways of spending their money rather than on things that they don't find to be of interest to them. So it is a lack of interest and a lack of commitment on the side of the various political ruling classes. And this is not only NPP, it's also the government before the NDC and NPP. They've really not shown enough commitment that women issues are important issues for them. And it would have to take the women themselves, because he who sleeps in a dark room knows where he or she lays their head. Another one is that he who, what did they even say, that you know where the shoe pinches you the most. So if really we women become really tired of being tired, as one civil rights activist in America put it, we must be tired of being tired to whip up the necessary enthusiasm and energy to push for change to happen. Because, those who will wield power you can't always expect voluntary unselfishness from them. And you know also from your experience as an activist on social media that sometimes the only language they hear is consistent pressure, but people are, times are hard. Everybody is trying to survive. So people hardly have the energy to commit to any long drawn protest that would actually see the transformation. So we're all doing piecemeal thing and getting piecemeal, gains.
Results,
But
yeah.
the real transformation continues to elude us. So we need to remobilize, we need to re-strategize, we need to ask ourselves as women and activists on behalf of women, whether we really want to see the numbers increase.
Thank you.
Because if we do, we have to do more than we currently are doing.
Thank you so much, Shamima Muslim. She's a communications consultant. She's also a gender advocate. We also spoke with Ranking Member for Parliament's Gender and Children Committee, Honorable Helen Ajua Ntosu, who we lost on the line towards the end of the program. But both of these women have given us some insightful contributions, and we're very grateful for their time and their attention. Now, we know that inclusive governance is progressive governance, and in the absence of inclusive governance, there is no progressive governance. And that is what I leave for you at home who is watching us to ponder over as we continue to push and ask questions why there aren't enough women in governance. My name is Nwong Falong. Thank you for staying with us through the program. Good evening.